my ego was so bruised from being that guy who I was kind of pretending to be, to then not knowing, like, how the hell do I show up now?
Did you always think like this?
No, not at all.
You're a very interesting individual.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I'm just trying to picture, like, young you.
Yeah.
This Jack the lad, this guy that just cares about his bench press PR and
that was it.
Like,
that was
biceps and
creative.
To like the person that I'm sat having a conversation with now, it just doesn't match up.
They often say that you know, business is a great sort of money-making scheme. In reality, it's just a self-improvement vehicle that's disguised as a money-making scheme.
You get in there to make money, but then you realise to actually make the money, there's these adjustments that you have to make to still get to that goal. So I don't think that I'm starting this business to make money, but then it's like, okay, now I'm in this business to become the best me. You just have to become the best you to get the business to the stage where you can make money.
Welcome back to the Gooms Podcast, guys, and what an episode we have for you today. We had an amazing guest, Harry Morgan. He's the owner of the brand The Moss Way, and he actually gifted me and Chris some supplements, and I've been taking these over the past week, and I've noticed so many changes in my overall well-being, mood, my focus, my energy, just being present in day-to-day life. I'm not just saying this to promote the product. I've genuinely noticed these changes, and one thing that is so important to me is what I put inside my body, and there is no terrible ingredients in here which are detrimental to your gut or anything else in your body. What it says on the front of the packet, Irish Seamoss, is in fact the only ingredient in the capsule. I really recommend that you do give this product a try. And if you go to checkout and use the code Gooms, you will get 10% off your whole order. Enjoy the episode, guys, and I'm so happy that we get to share it with you.
Yeah. Everyone's in a position to teach. All you have to know is more than the student.
Yeah, true.
Like that's what it comes down to. It's like when you see a lot of personal trainers. There's a lot of personal trainers who are in way worse shape than most of the gym bros. And I know when I was a gym bro, I was kind of like, who the fuck are all these personal trainers like training people
like
who've got who've got no ideas. And like now I've become a personal trainer and even work with some of those people. And initially when I joined, I was kind of like a little bit judgmental. There's no doubt about it. And it's kind of like, these people don't really live and breathe this or reason. But to them, actually, they were in a much maybe worse position than even where I started. They've come a certain way along their journey. And actually the fact that they're almost, to put it in a physical sense, lower down the mountain makes them feel like they're more in reach of the person who's at the very bottom. Yeah. And so like a lot of people, when they've like seen me in the gym and stuff, they're almost, particularly like, you know, maybe an overweight woman might feel quite intimidated. Now I've had a few people almost like kind of from that area who ended up working with me, but I think that was only because like when they actually met me, they were like, oh shit, actually he's quite understanding and like he's not trying to.
But that guy that's not ripped to shreds, or that girl that does look a little bit more like them, is that
middle-aged woman who's like in Worcester, there's a middle-aged woman who's like, you would say overweight, like she's not in great shape, but she's generally training people who are bigger than her. And so the fact that she has a relationship with exercise and maybe has a few of the core fundamentals down, you know what, like maybe there's room for improvement, but like who are we to judge? She's in a different position. And
no, it makes sense. It does make sense.
Yeah, so
I never thought of it like that. As long as you know more than the student, then you can still teach.
Yeah, like there's no doubt you guys could teach people how to set up an agency. Maybe you can't tell them how to scale it to 10 million if you haven't got to 10 million. But you know what I mean? Like, because there's a lot of people who are like, I could run a course now and be like, take an e-commerce brand to 6 figures. But it's like, yeah, okay, I know how to do that, but a lot of people will literally like just take 1 to 6 figures, like close it. It wasn't really that like profitable or fun. And then it's like, but there's a lot of money in selling a course that tells someone how to scale it. And like everyone loves the word 6 figures, but I hope Gandhi has shared with you, he's like, top line is vanity, bottom line is sanity. So it's like your revenue is for vanity, your profit is for sanity. Because you can have a £3 million business, but if you're like 500 grand in debt, you don't have much fun. Everyone's looking around like, woo, great, big business, and you're kind of there chewing your nails.
How to create a 7-figure fast food restaurant.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Because from our families, like, exactly. But it's like, what really matters is like how much have you actually learned?
You can do 7 figures a year, but it doesn't mean that the 7 figures left at the end of it.
Yeah, of course, of course.
That's right. Everybody's doing now the courses, man, and they're all raking it.
Particularly because individuals have now learned how to like productize, you know, almost like digital products. You know, it's what I'm kind of partly trying to create, or digital communities through like the Transform My Wellbeing stuff. Like I had a really interesting meeting with a guy who I think is like going to be my partner in that on Saturday, because he already runs like online wellness coaching and stuff, and so he's got more experience in the actual like delivery. Although I've delivered a reasonable amount of stuff in person, I'm not that familiar with the online space. He's much more comfortable with the online space, but isn't so familiar with running an actual company or running an actual sort of like systemized approach. So it's about finding lots of things, and I feel pretty confident that we will make a multi-million-pound supplement company in the next few years, because
let's
no
fucking
doubt
do
between
it.
our skills we can
Let's do it. I mean, me and H
Ease it.
actually had a conversation when we left, and we were like, just the idea of that is so exciting, because it's a conversation we've previously had.
I said to Chris, this is like
the Holy Trinity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
weird.
oh
It's
my
weird.
God, we
Here
are.
we are. Here we are. Jesus.
I said it to Chris, and I've had
Your grandmother will be proud.
She actually
We are
would.
Christian.
I said it to Chris probably about 2 months ago. I was like, bro, I'm gonna start making electrolytes, man. Like, one day, like, I had some spare time. I was calling up manufacturers, like finding out about stuff and things and that. So
It's fun, isn't it? Like when you realise that, I realise it's like when the game is not set up in the way that you want to play it, life can feel absolutely brutal, and you don't think you have a choice, because that's like we chatted about last time. I'm sure we'll get into it again. It's like the whole idea of you're living off other people's expectations and kind of like external validation, when really when you're actually internally directed and you kind of start setting up the board in the way that you want to go. I'm now like, I wake up most days and I'm like, cool, I get to do the things that I've chosen to do. Like it's self-directed. Like I know I want to, I really want to provide this value to this community. I know how much this information has helped me. I know how much these other individuals can help people. I want to bring us together so we can help people. Yeah, it has to be a product, and unfortunately in the sort of like idealistic spiritual world, you're like, give everything away for free, and it's like, yeah, but I've got to fucking eat. So what's the saying? You got to pay Caesar his dues. Like you live in Caesar's world, you got to pay his dues. You got to pay your taxes. You know, you got to charge for a product, but just allowing everyone to, I think, do that. One more thing before we start. Do you ever look at the camera? Because last time I was like, I don't know what to...
talk to us.
No.
Okay, cool.
Unless you're like,
Cool.
guys, listen.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The only time
I thought so. Believe it or not, when I was about 13, I did model for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
So
I was telling him about his massive hands. I said massive hands always lead to. I said massive hands always lead to something else, and he goes, "Yeah, massive feet."
Yeah, my dad makes me look pretty small. My dad's 6'6" and got like size 14, 15 feet. I'm size 12 feet. So
maybe we'll get there one day, or in another life. I don't know.
Maybe you've already been there in another life.
Yeah. Bring us in, man. So Second time lucky, bro.
No camera talk, and then we'll say no drug talk for now.
Yeah,
we'll leave that for a what does LSD do to the brain episode.
I actually asked. It's so weird. The other day we were talking about this on PlayStation. I was like, what does LSD actually do?
He said, what is acid?
Yeah, what is acid?
Yeah. So just acid, I think.
Yeah.
That's what he said. That was literally his reply.
Yeah, I think it's just acid, bro. Yeah. But bring us in, man. Second time lucky. Let's go.
It's 58 now, isn't it? Because of
59.
59 because of the internet.
Yeah. Yep.
Fucking hell, 60 episodes, man, scary. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to episode number 59 of the Gooms Podcast. And we have a very, very special guest in the studio with us today. We had an amazing conversation last time and we had some errors, so we've had to run it back and jump back in for another amazing convo. And I already know that you guys are in for a treat. So a big round of applause for Harry Morgan in the studio, man.
Woo, 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 woo! Big
Too
G,
kind.
man.
Thank you. Ready to run it again.
Yeah,
Ready to run it again.
I'm excited. The conversations that we've just had, like, off camera, on camera, anything. Genuinely, I've learned so much from you.
No, I appreciate that. I've learned a lot from you boys too. It's been great.
He's been talking about our conversation for the last 4 days. We're in a war zone, mate. We're in a war zone, and he'll be talking about intuition and the resistance. And I'm like, bro, there's someone on you. I've live pinged him. Like, come on, bro.
Got business to run.
Man.
No, but the stuff like the intuition, the resistance. I actually said it to a friend the other day. He left his SD card at home, like drove all the way to the gym to go film content, and I was on the phone to him. He goes, "Fuck! I've left my SD card at home." I was like, "Bro," "Take a breath, man. It's just the resistance. The universe is trying to stop you from getting what you want." And he was like, "Bro, you're right, man. It's the resistance." And he just got in his car, just turned back around and went home.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, it's Stephen Pressfield's idea that talks about that, and it's like trying to get in contact with the muse. Or there's another guy, Rick Rubin, who's like the DJ sort of producer.
He's a G. He throws big parties.
He talks about it called the source, like trying to get in contact with the source, and like not the source as in booze, but universal source. But they all talk about some sort of similar idea of resistance, and it's all about things getting in the way. But if you're able to at least identify that something is resistant, then you can push through rather than getting slammed down by it and feeling like, oh no, everything's against me or everyone's against me.
Everything's perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Shifts in perspective make a big difference in your life.
Just quickly, that massive white party in the Hamptons where everybody that was an A-list celebrity, that was Rick Rubin's party.
Oh, okay. I remember the one where DJ Khaled was there.
DJ Khaled, Mbappe, Kim K, like the Migos. Like,
the one Lil Uzi Vert was doing the dance on the sofa.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
No, that one. I think it's
like So the fact that you said Rick Rubin, I was like, what? Really?
Yeah, he recently released a book like a few months ago called The Creative Act, but it doesn't really, from at least my opinion, necessarily relate to just what you call like conventional creative acts, which I think most people think of as like singing, dancing. I think entrepreneurship is a creative act to a degree, so understanding the sort of concepts that they talk about is really important, because there's no doubt there's a lot of resistance on like the sort of path to building a business or whatever it may be.
The first question that I'd like to ask you, bro, is what lessons did you have to learn to get to where you are today, and what did you have to go through to find yourself?
So number one lesson probably comes down to, rather than seeking external like validation or seeking sort of societal approval, which is definitely something that I did a lot of in the past, trying to find your own voice, like your own sense of direction, and allow that to actually lead you. Because as I was just mentioning before we started this conversation, if you're sort of playing on this imaginary, board game that we call life, but you feel like everyone else has set up the rules and the sort of strategy, and you just feel like you have to play that game, but you don't really enjoy it, it can be a little bit of a miserable existence, which it was for me. Whereas if you realize that you can actually have a say in sort of how the game is created, and move yourself in such a position that you allow to configure a life that you actually want to actively participate in, it makes things a lot more enjoyable. And generally when things are more enjoyable, you find that you're a little bit more successful at the same time. So it's a win-win.
What experience, I mean, was there a certain part in your life or a certain chapter that stopped you from looking for that outside, what's the word?
Validation.
Yeah, that outside.
I wasn't sure if that was what you wanted to go for.
From the outside validation to then looking inside.
Yeah, couple of experiences. So when I was young, we mentioned it in our last conversation that sadly didn't come through, but I was a pretty insecure guy. I think as a lot of us are when we're young teenagers, a little bit skinny, a little bit lanky.
We were never lanky.
Not lanky, okay, maybe just skinny then.
I was always the skinny short kid, man.
I think skinny tall kid over here.
I think growing up as well as a kid, because when I look back on myself now, like as a young adult that I am now, like when I look back on myself as a teenager / kid, like I look back at myself and I realize that I probably was quite insecure growing up, and I think that most people were like that. But
I don't think you realise it. Yeah, so true.
You're naive to it,
of course. Well, you don't. It's like you don't know how bad things are until they get better, or you don't know how good things are until they get worse. It's this perspective. But I mean, one of the big things was, learning about the gym when I was like 13, 14 years old with my older brother, being competitive, then getting completely lost in that, probably a little bit OCD over it, almost turning into a, wannabe bodybuilder until at the age of 18. I then went to uni. I came back after the first term at Christmas, and I got diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder that affected my liver, and I lost like almost 30 kilos in the space of a month. Very unwell, like my skin was sort of crawling, itching. I was bleeding from scratching myself. My eyes were yellow. I had this idea of who I was as this like kind of big macho guy that I believed, everyone was impressed by, and then that got completely shattered.
No one cares.
Jim.
But our mutual friend told me about you was that you were that guy at school. You were the rugby lad. You were the big dude. You were very confident and out there. And And then obviously,
I think it was a facade, really.
It's I mean, you're going to know better than me. It's just, so going from that to then obviously falling ill, which massively changed that. Yeah. What was that like for you?
So it was difficult. It was difficult, like looking in the mirror at 18 years old, and although no one said I was going to die, I thought I was going to die. You know, I was terrified.
The people at home quickly just that don't know what you had and what was kind of wrong with you.
Basically, my liver, like it was an autoimmune disease that affected my liver. So my spleen was really swollen. My bilirubin, which is like a sort of a biomarker of a byproduct from your liver, and generally it's like the healthy range is about 0 to 30, but a healthy young lad, you'd expect it literally to be 1 or 2. Mine shot up to like nearly 750 at its worst point. And so it's also toxic when it's in your bloodstream. So my brain wasn't really functioning well because it's also in your bloodstream and it irritates your skin. I was pretty much an insomniac, staying up all night, scratching myself till the point where I was bleeding. And I was literally lay at home on a sofa. Well, I was in hospital for a bit on a drip, then got put on a load of nasty medications, which also mess with your head. And I spent 3 months at home, not having much fun, kind of really retreating from the world because I didn't want to go out as this individual, because my ego was so bruised from being that guy who I was kind of pretending to be, to then not knowing, like, how the hell do I show up now? And when I returned to uni, I just couldn't play the same character because I didn't look the same way. And I thought, well, I could have played the same character, but I thought, of course, that the external appearance was very important, or certainly it was to me at the time. And so then I kind of just got lost in the world of uni, drinking, drugs, just rubbish, really. And although I managed to come out of uni with a good degree, thank God, and enough studying to get me through, really I was just kind of lost for most of that time, as I think a lot of individuals can be at university, unless you feel like you've already found your purpose. Then I went traveling for a little bit, and then that's when I went to go and work in finance. So I went to go and be an auditor, which is a type of accountant, training at one of the big 4 in Birmingham. And I was doing their intensive route, so studying literally 70 hours a week, 2-3 months, 1 day off, 2-3 months, 1 day off. Then we hit lockdown whilst I was doing that. So then we were no longer studying in a classroom or in a college. We were then studying online, totally socially isolated. And I was just miserably depressed at that point. And that's when I think I really kind of hit rock bottom. I had to reach out. I just felt, terribly alone. And I didn't feel like I could reach out initially because...
Reach out, what do you mean?
Well, reach out to family and let them know how I was feeling. Reach out to my girlfriend, who I'm still with, Isabel, who's been an amazing support to me throughout the last 7 years. Big shout out, Isabel. I didn't think that I could necessarily do that because all this external validation that I thought really mattered, I felt like, how can I leave this big, secure financial role that I've landed? I'm guaranteed, if I kind of follow this through, to have a stable career, to have health insurance, to have all the things, you know what I mean, that you, so to speak, need, particularly what, again, you expect society wants from most individuals.
Yeah, I was about to say what society thinks you need.
Yes.
Or pushes onto you to think that you need.
Yeah, exactly. Particularly going to the school I did and the people I knew, that was a well-trodden path. And it's the path that both my parents trod. They went into professional services. And so it's one of those where I didn't think that I could let go of it, and I didn't think that I could create a different game. And so I was terrified to tell people that this is really messing me up and I think I need to leave. That was really frightening to me. But actually the moment that I was able to open up and I was able to express how I felt and be genuinely vulnerable, which seems like a very difficult thing to do when I was looking back at it, particularly, in the sort of pseudo-masculine role that we can often play. You think you've got to bottle it all up, which is the sort of old school way. I know things are changing. That was the big turning point that then allowed me to start unraveling all this crap that wasn't me and that I'd kind of taken from outside ideas and sort of slapped it onto me like this big suit of armor that was hiding the sort of real version of me. And I could slowly figure out, actually, what is it that I value? What are the things that I want to achieve in life, and how do I want to show up in the world?
Yeah. Go on.
I was going to say, what to someone at home that is feeling depressed, what would you say to them?
I think the biggest thing is talk to someone. They say a problem shared is a problem halved. I know the moment that I shared how I felt, like, yeah, okay, it's not immediate, but there is often this sense of, you know, at least some weight being removed. It's like you're carrying this massive rucksack around with you and you're trying to hide it because you don't think that, you know, you're worried it will hurt other people, and you kind of just have to wallow in your own shame and guilt. But actually, the moment that you can open up to someone and let them know, they can tell you that they're there for you, you know. And, you know, the idea of depression is like you're constricted, you know, like everything feels low, everything feels hard. You have to try and do the opposite of that, which is expression. Like, you have to express how you feel. And so, although it may be really difficult, do everything you can to speak to someone, or to get outside, to get fresh air, you know, to get some sunlight, like to eat some good food. These are all small things that slowly kind of put you towards, you know, the kind of path of getting better, because there's no doubt that most people throughout their life are going to go through something, or at least someone they know will go through something like depression, or whether it be anxiety. And, you know, I don't think that it's always a bad thing. We can learn a hell of a lot from it. And I'm actually grateful for the experiences I had. I would never want to remove them. You know, they say that heaven and hell are retrospective. So it's like when you're going through hell, it feels like everything that's happened to you has just been this like dark, you know, like nasty story, and the world's against you. And then as things are getting better and all of a sudden you feel like you found purpose, like now I feel like I have a purpose. And so actually all these things that before I thought were terrible instances that occurred to me, I now see them as having great purpose too, because they all led me to where I am. So it can get better, and I'm sure it will.
Do you find that those experiences help you now when you, not so much in a rut, but like when things do get hard? Do you think you revert back to those situations and and just kind of reflect and say to yourself, well, if I got through that, what's this type thing?
I think it's perspective. The fact that I've gone through those experiences, and I know the things that led me towards it. I know the things that led me out of it. I don't have all the answers, but actually I was listening to something really interesting the other day. A guy called Chris Palmer, who's like a researcher over in the US, and he talks how a lot of mental health conditions, whether it's depression, whether it's OCD, anxiety, and even really serious things, a lot of it comes down to what you refer to as like our metabolic health, which comes down to how well are we, you know, it's certain like various markers, like bilirubin is a blood marker, cholesterol markers, HbA1c, which is like a blood sugar sort of marker. You've also got your insulin. All these factors, as people become more metabolically inflexible, you have a higher risk of essentially having any condition of mental health. And he's found that people who are completely resistant to any treatment find a great difference in just simply improving through lifestyle factors. So for me, a lot of it was just lifestyle factors. You know, I was offered antidepressants, but I didn't want them. It's not part of what I wanted to go through. Now, I'm not saying that's wrong for anyone else, and it doesn't mean you have to deny them, but there's no doubt that taking responsibility for your health and improving it through sleep, diet, you know, all these different factors that really matter make a huge difference on how you feel mentally. And so now when I'm going through a tough time, or things always get a little bit gloomy, I know the strategies to put in place, rather than reaching for crap food, try and reach for homemade food, you know, rather than lying down and watching YouTube, try and get to the gym or go to the sauna, or I go for a walk, or, you know, I do something that allows me to actually process what I'm feeling, rather than denying those feelings and suppressing them, because it's when you suppress things that they just kind of stay bottled up inside you and they don't ever really get better. They just come out in some explosion like months down the line, and I'm not really into that anymore. It's not much fun. Yeah.
So you've left your job and you've told your whole family, you thinking that everybody's going to be disappointed in you, and it's a bit out of the blue. You've landed this amazing job. Where did you go from here?
So temporarily, because I was living with Isabel in Birmingham, I moved out of Birmingham with her. Because this was actually the second lockdown, we moved back actually in with my parents back in Worcester. I then trained to be a personal trainer, and that's when I then set up my business, the Moss Way, where we sell our organic Irish Seamoss and like various other supplements that I gave you guys some samples of.
I've been taking the Irish Seamoss. It's just the Seamoss tab, and then there's a turmeric one as well for the past few days.
The Magic Moss capsules, which is just the original stuff, and then the Mighty Moss capsules.
They've been great to anybody at home that's taking supplements or wants to take some. They've actually been wicked.
No, I appreciate it.
I want to touch on a little bit more of what it is that you're actually selling and what actually is Seamoss to the people that don't actually know.
Okay, so there's Seamoss is like a bit of a general term. It's like almost just referring to, let's say, lettuce. And of course, there's varying standards and species of lettuce. You've got your kind of like straight up just water lettuce, which is, I can't even remember what it's called now, iceberg lettuce. Which is, there's nothing really in it. Then you've got like romaine lettuce and stuff. So Seamoss, originally the term actually comes from Irish moss, which was, well, it's been around for thousands of years, and seaweed, which is, Seamoss is a seaweed, has been consumed for literally thousands and thousands of years from like archaeological studies. But Irish Seamoss was used during the Irish potato famine, when people were obviously struggling with nutritional deficiencies, and parts of the population along the coast were going to the coastal lines and were seeing, is there anything that we can eat? And they ended up finding Irish Seamoss and using this to help sustain them and provide them with vital nutrients that they weren't able to get. Of course, that then, although showed its great benefit, did associate it with poverty. So people moved away from it for a little bit of time because it just had a really kind of tarnished name. However, then sort of in more recent time, various sort of renowned herbalists, even a guy called Dr. Sebi, who was like a Honduran herbalist, who was like a herbalist for a lot of like VIP celebrities and A-listers and stuff, and various other people since him, have then started talking about the benefits of Irish Seamoss, particularly the species called Chondrus crispus, which is the stuff that grows on the Atlantic coast of Ireland and also certain parts of, I believe also like Portugal and Scotland, but it's a cold water species. You've then also got other types of Seamoss called Gracilaria and like Euchimi cottoni. These are mainly what people are selling when you're looking at Seamoss online, which is a warm water species. From at least the research that I've done, is significantly less nutritionally dense.
It's almost like pasteurize it.
No, it's not pasteurizing. It's just the nutrients that Seamoss gets comes from its environment, and so like the quality and the way that it's grown is really important. Most of the stuff you'll find in warm waters, and most, like over 90% of the Seamoss, again, you'll find on the market, comes from rope harvesting, where it's just kind of like fed out on a line, whereas all the stuff that we buy, we work very, very closely with an amazing family that have been hand harvesting Irish Seamoss for 4 generations. It's in a beautiful, like, picturesque bay where we quality test the waters, we quality test the products, we test it for heavy metals, because obviously I know that's a concern for some people when you're talking about things that are coming from the ocean. The town where it's based, in the last census, they've got a population of like 180 people. It's on like the southern side as well. And so when you're talking about water quality and pristine environment, it's as good as it gets. And that's really what matters when you're then talking about the mineral composition. So the main benefits that you're generally getting is that this is a natural multivitamin, it's a natural multi-mineral, it's got amino acids in it, it's got natural sources of omega-3s, it's got polysaccharides, which are great for your gut. And for me, I used to be a little bit of a supplement head when I was like back as a gym boy, and it was all just, stuff that's been pumped out kind of synthetically, kind of crappy multivitamins. I think that, quality is the thing now that really matters in my life. So the quality of my food, the quality of like the Irish Seamoss we use is exceptional, and that's what provides it with all the benefits that it has. And we've got thousands of customers now who have, come back to us and said that they've had great benefit from the product, whether it be from their gut health, or whether it be alleviating constipation, or whether it be improved energy, improved cognition. For me personally, I found it when I was leaving my accounting job and I was feeling down in the dumps, and literally within a couple of weeks of experimenting with it, it was like a sort of light switch turned on in my in my mind. My brain was clearer, my thoughts were clearer, I felt like I had a little bit more energy, and it was sort of part of the snowball effect of improving my diet and then improving my light environment and all these things that kind of come along with it. So yeah, it's not the only thing you need, but it's a really fantastic addition to your diet in what is I believe, pretty nutrient deficient population.
Yeah. What makes the Moss Way stand out from others?
It is the fact that we use authentic Irish Seamoss. We use real Chondrus crispus, unlike literally 99% of the market. The fact that we source it with such care, we quality test it, we know where it's coming from, you know, it's traced back to only one place. We're really, you know, very, very particular about the way we do things, the other herbs that we source. We try, you know, all of the Seamoss we use is organic, but 90% of the herbs that we're using in the other formulations are organic. You know, I've tried and tested these products for years. So have lots of family and friends, maybe not all to their pleasure. They're kind of like, not another time, but...
try one of these, man.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's tried and tested, and I'm really confident. You know, we've had other people come from other companies who have said like, oh, I've tried other versions of Seamoss, and then, you know, I heard you talking about it, and I thought, oh, let's give it a go. And they say there really is a night and day difference. So, yeah.
Congratulations, bro.
Yeah, thank you.
That's a mad achievement, and obviously you're very, very passionate when you talk about it. Just in the interactions we've had over the last week, I can see that it means a lot to you, and it's quite beautiful to see somebody like so passionate about their work and their projects and their just in general life. So it's a massive achievement.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. No, that's kind. I appreciate it.
Off camera, we had a conversation.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get into this now that we've had a chance to sit down again and maybe go more in depth, but talk about spirituality. I mean, the question that I had for you was, so I've got my book at home, and inside you write like a spiritual win in there every day, but that was something that I was a little bit stuck on. I was like, what would I even write for a spiritual win? I don't even know what this is.
Yeah. So it kind of comes down to, as we previously mentioned, it's very difficult to sort of identify a spiritual win, because the way we operate and the world that we operate in is very kind of material. It is very, you know, that's just the nature of the reality that we're in. It is quite reductionist. I kind of like to use a sort of model that a really interesting guy called Dr. Ian McGilchrist, who is like an Oxford graduate psychiatrist, also I believe like an English scholar, very, very, very intelligent guy. He wrote a fascinating book called The Master and His Emissary, which is about the two hemispheres of the brain. And so when we think of like left brain and right brain people, which is a model that a lot of people kind of know of, they think, oh, left brain is like logical, linear, math, science, right brain is art, creativity, drama. However, he says, no, that's not true at all. Actually, we're using both hemispheres when we're pretty much doing all of those tasks. What actually really matters is the way we attend to things, so like our attention towards things. And I know this might not seem related to spirituality, but I personally, I think you'll see the link in a moment, is that when we attend to something with the left side of our brain, we tend to see it in a like mechanistic, reductionist way. So even if we see something that has life, we will almost see it just as like moving parts, not as having life. Whereas when we attend to something or draw our attention to something with our right brain, we actually see things in a holistic, in an integrated picture. And he very much ascertains that pretty much the entire Western world has got really locked in this left brain way of thinking, which means that we take everything and we reduce it down to like the single moving part, the single number that we need to focus on, you know, the top speed of your car, your bench press, whatever it may be. How can we simplify it into this single thing? And whereas the right brain way of looking at things, which is probably a slightly more Eastern perspective, is actually about how does this relate to the whole. And I think that sort of fundamentally spirituality is, you can't really use words to describe it, because as they talk about in the Tao, they say like the Tao is like the Tao that cannot be named. It can't be spoken of. You can't use words to describe it. You can only sort of point towards it. But thinking through that, what would be presumed as a more right brain way of thinking about things, seeing the whole picture, seeing how things relate, that to me is more analogous to like a spiritual view. Whereas that left brain, how can we reduce it? How can we make it really simple and like one single thing, one single metric, the quantity of it? That's much more a materialist view. And neither are right or wrong, but I think it's important we learn to have a balanced approach, which, from my opinion, we've sort of lost touch with.
Did you always think like this?
No, not at all. Not at all.
No.
No, not at all. I would say over the last probably 4 or 5 years.
You're a very interesting individual.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah. Like you just keep pulling out professors and names and books, and I'm just thinking, fuck me, like
I've listened to a few too many audiobooks, read a few too many books, listened to a few too many podcasts. But
where did the interest come from? Like, because like I'm just trying to picture like young you.
Yeah,
this Jack the lad, this guy that just cares about his bench press PR and
that was it.
Like
that was
biceps and like,
creative.
To like the person that I'm sat having a conversation with now, it just doesn't match up. And I know there's a lot of stuff in between.
Yeah,
but I'm just interested by where did you? Well, not where. When did you start to find an interest in this type of stuff, and when did you start to educate yourself about it?
I think a nice way to explain it, there's this weird sort of analogy. I can't remember exactly what the animal is. It's like this musk deer, I think is what it is. And it comes from a story from the Upanishads, which is like ancient Vedic texts. And it produces this scent from this gland, just like humans do. Not the same scent, but we produce scents obviously from glands. And when it can smell this scent when it's like in the forest, and it thinks that it needs to go and find whatever is making this smell. And so it goes on this elaborate journey in order to try and find this scent. You know, he leaves the forest, he starves himself, doesn't drink any water, literally almost to the point of death, until it realizes that it is the thing producing the smell. And so
stupid ass.
yeah, it is. And like it almost is a similar story to me trying to find, trying to be comfortable in your own skin, trying to be sort of self-assured of what you're doing is right, and constantly thinking that lies outside of you, and constantly looking for this validation elsewhere, to only kind of go through all these trials and tribulations and lots of failure and a few successes along the way, lots of other crazy shit, to only get to the point when you go, oh, actually, it was never any need to do any of that. It was never to look more outward, which is what I kind of always thought was the answer. It was actually learning to look inward and, find your own validation and find your own sense of self-worth. As cringy as it sounds, and, in the sort of very spiritual world, it's like self-love and like things like gratitude. Those things are the things that really matter. And I think when you sort of finally get a little bit of a grasp on them, you realize that really is actually what you've needed, not more external stuff, because you can just keep running on that treadmill forever and you'll never be satisfied.
One of my favorite Hormozy quotes, confidence doesn't come from shouting affirmations in the mirror. Confidence comes from an undeniable stack of proof that you are who you say you are.
Yes.
Outwork yourself down. And it sticks with me because it is so true.
Yeah. So I like Hormozy. Mm-hmm. So I would say
I love that that's a Hormozy quote, by the way.
Yeah. He I would say that he almost comes to what some people could argue, like that is a relatively spiritual thing to say, the kind of, realizing you don't need it through affirmations. And he slightly denies the spiritual world, but I think actually comes to a lot of the same conclusions. Mm-hmm. It's just he comes through to them via quite material sort of means. And I listened to a really interesting podcast actually when Hormozy was on a guy called Aubrey Marcus's podcast. And Aubrey is a very, very spiritual guy who spent the last 20 years doing, plant medicine and ayahuasca, but also runs an exceptionally, or did run an exceptionally successful supplement company called On It. And when they were having their conversation, they were both really alluding to the same thing. It's just that Hormozy was kind of coming at it through this very business, material, slightly more reductionist standpoint, whereas Aubrey would then kind of point out, he's like, I know you don't think you're a spiritual bro, but actually what you've said is very enlightening, and you could see both of them sort of coming more towards the center. And I think the reason that spirituality has interested me so much over the last few years is because I was thinking about ways in such a kind of material external viewpoint that I probably overcompensated at times and swung a little bit far to the other side. But I mean, that's another concept in itself. The pendulum, if it comes all the way one side, it's kind of got to go all the way the other. And I think gradually I'm now finding my sort of center, which is, you know, like I run a business. I can't just rely on meditation to fulfill orders and to make sure we've got happy customers and reply to the emails and do the work that needs to be done. It's about finding that sort of middle road where you don't, you know, you can run a business and probably never be satisfied if all you're chasing is the numbers. So that middle road where you can enjoy the process whilst also, you know, having other aspirations and goals that you want to achieve.
Going back to the Hormozy podcast you were speaking on, you know how you said that they slowly but surely came towards the center. Would you look at them as two guys that were on the thinking from the one side of the brain and then the other, and then realize that there was actually a center point with both of the ways that they were thinking, but it's just the perspectives they had didn't allow them to see the other side?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I think the thing is, Aubrey is a successful businessman at the same time.
Okay.
And so I think it was actually more maybe eye-opening for Hormozy because, so like going back to Ian McGilchrist and his sort of theory, he pretty much says that, you know, like the entire Western world is like heavily locked in this left dominant view, and he thinks that's generally speaking the sort of reason behind a lot of the problems that we're facing, whether it comes down to like the quality of most things in our world has deteriorated massively. Most people feel the quality of their life is deteriorating. We're having this whole, you know, crisis, meaning the quality of our food is deteriorating. A lot of people's quality of their relationships is deteriorating. And he very much believes, and I fundamentally believe as well, that that's because we're not seeing how things are relating. And that comes down to that like kind of right hemispheric view of how can we see things in a holistic picture. And the word holistic has also been a little bit, you know, contrived at times. And some people have sort of taken it to mean slightly more extreme things, but overall it's just about, rather than seeing the object as primary, you see the relationship as the primary thing. And I think we could all learn a lot from taking that view at least some of the time.
Yeah. I want to talk to you about your business and you as a business person. You were in a really successful, well, you were on the way to being in a really successful job, and you had to come out of that, which first of all shows a lot of balls to make that jump and to come into starting your own thing. What was that phase in between like as an entrepreneur? Because you're 4 years in now, correct?
Yeah, about 4 years. I mean, the idea started about 4 years ago. The business started really about 3 years ago.
Yeah. Obviously, the business is in very, very different stages now as it was at the start of that journey. What was that like for you? And what were the steps that you took to get it to where it is now?
So just the actual steps of the business, I mean, it's that incremental process of, you know, kind of expanding your wheelhouse. You know, a lot of people nowadays become very specialized in one thing, which is what I was actually training to do. And I think when you go to run a business, you realize that although you may have certain specialities and skill sets that really suit you, actually, it's the stuff where you suck that really matters. Because if you can't do your accounting, like your business is going to fail. But also, if like you don't do any marketing, your business is going to fail. If you don't know how to run any operations, your business is going to fail. And so, you know, I've always been a little bit scattered mind, so to speak. I supposedly have ADHD, although that'd be another question of I'm not sure if I believe in that necessarily. But I'm certainly that type of character where I like to do a lot of things and I get very interested in certain aspects, and kind of the stuff I don't want to do, it's like...
That's what makes you though.
Yeah, it does. But realising time and time again that the bits of work that you like keep putting off are the bits that you actually just kind of have to knuckle down, and you have to find a degree of discipline. I think that's probably been the most important thing on the journey, learning to find discipline and stick to the things that I would say I would do rather than, you know, just saying it and then not following through. In fact, that's a bit of a concept in itself where I think it's sort of a psychological phenomena that when, for example, someone says they're going to write a book, and then you can go around telling everyone how you're going to write this fantastic book and what it's going to be on, and everyone goes, oh, that's going to be amazing, and you're so intelligent, blah, blah, blah. And then it's almost like the need to write the book has been quenched because you've got all this fantastic feedback from people. And so there's no doubt at times I'll be like, right, I'm going to do this thing, and like this is going to really help, and da-da-da-da. And everyone goes, a fantastic idea, like, you know, well done, really, really pleased that you've thought of it in that way. And then you're like, oh, that's kind of actually quite pleasurable getting that feedback, and now I guess I don't really need to do it. But
when you tell people about like your dreams and goals, your brain actually releases the same amount of dopamine as when you actually achieve them.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes I think I keep quiet about more things and wait until it's sort of at least further in process, or I put more guideposts in. Sometimes of course it is good to talk about dreams, but I think sometimes we can overdo it, and sometimes you just got to have those conversations with yourself and put in the work.
That's one thing I struggle with, especially at the start of our journey. I got very excited about things.
Oh, you! Yeah, you. I know you're looking at yourself right now and you're thinking, why am I not subscribed to the Gooms Podcast? Just f***ing do it then, because it helps the boys out more than you actually know. Peace.
I was very excited about our mission, our plan, our goals, our aspirations, and I wanted to speak and shout about them to everybody. Probably maybe for some validation that I was doing the right thing, or whatever. But yeah, I think growing up and maturing as a businessman is don't talk about that deal until this contract's signed, man. Just don't.
For sure.
Just don't talk about it until it's signed, or don't talk about that project until it's out. Or
bro, it's part of your self-development though.
Yeah.
Because what that Bedros clip that I sent you the other day, or I reposted it and I think you might have liked it. I can't remember. But he literally says the two places in everybody's life where you have the most self-improvement possible is fitness and your health, and then business. And that's part of your improvement, bro.
100%.
Yeah, they often say that business is a great sort of money-making scheme. Actually, in reality, it's just a self-improvement vehicle that's disguised as a money-making scheme. You think you're doing it for money, but actually it very quickly becomes, no, this is much more about improving your kind of character and, really realizing your own flaws and realizing your own weaknesses, and then being able to build on them and, kind of build your awareness.
I think it's actually, you get in there to make money, but then you realize to actually make the money, there's these adjustments that you have to make to still get to that goal. So I don't think that I'm starting this business to make money, but then it's like, okay, now I'm in this business to become the best me. You just have to become the best you to get the business to the stage where you can make money.
Yeah, it's that cliche saying, isn't it? It's the journey, not the destination.
Yeah.
So you might set out with the wonderful pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, but actually it's the finding the gold that's actually the fun.
Yeah.
I think you see that time and time again, though, just in celebrities, particularly, very people who have a very fast rise to the top. They often have a very brutal, downfall, or there's a lot of addiction, or a lot of time, premature death. You see it constantly because the thing they so badly wanted to attain, actually, again, it's a form really of external validation. You get it, and then it's not what you anticipated, and that's what you've been betting everything on. Yeah. And so it's, be careful kind of where you stack all those bets. You don't want to have them all placed on one number. It's a risky place to be. And then I think it's Will Storr who talks about it as like they're all status games, and status is a bit of a funny thing because some people think it's sort of a synonym for, almost being like ruthless and being a bit of a, like a bit of a psycho, or basically a bit of a wanker. But actually, we very much get our social sense, and like from a primitive sense as well, like you needed some form of status of, this guy's the best hunter, this guy makes the best arrows, this guy can cook a great meal. When you place all your chips on, this is the only thing that's going to give me any sense of status, and then that doesn't work out, then you're left with what feels like nothing. And I think that's, not far off the kind of position that I found myself in when I was stacking all my chips on, like, okay, like how big my bench press is the only thing that matters, right? Now I can't bench press anything and I'm laying in a hospital bed. Like my status has shrank to almost zero. And
that's where you lost your identity, right?
Yeah. And so like spreading the chips, having, lots of different areas, like I still like to go to the gym. I still work on my physical fitness. I work on many aspects of my life. And so I don't try and derive, and again, some people will probably take the word status as almost meaning the wrong thing, but I don't try and derive my, I guess you could call it self-worth from just one or two areas. I've tried to scatter the chips in a more, manageable way, so that if something does go a little bit tits up, I've got backups. You know, spread your investments.
That's the way that you become the most complete human, though, as well. The best version of yourself. If you can tick off all of these different boxes, even if they're not all at 10s, it's going to be better than having 2 10s and the rest at 0s. If you have 20 6s, you're still all round a much better person.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
And I'm actually massively grateful that when we started on this journey, we expected things to work a lot quicker. And I'm kind of, I mean, not happy, but I'm happy in a sense that we didn't, because we have grown a substantial amount in the last year and a half just because it got thrown back in our faces. We talked about this in our last episode about preparing for the winter and coming out of losing streaks and going into winning streaks and losing streaks. These are all the things that made us stronger as business partners, made us stronger as people, made us stronger emotionally, mentally, and just the way that we actually move and operate within the business. We wouldn't have certain mindsets if we'd have just achieved things quickly.
Yeah.
Well, the question is how are you going to handle things when they're shit? Because when everything's going good, like it's between us, with you and your business, any business, when everything's going good and you're busy and products are flying out, there's no problems whatsoever in the world. There's never going to be anything that can go wrong. There's never going to be any tension with the team. Like that's when you're oblivious to anything that is going wrong because you're constantly busy. It's when things are shit, when you're in the losing streak, where it's like, okay, now
taking L after L. yeah.
You have to then look within as well.
Yeah.
Well, why is this happening? If I'm the person or we're the people that have the control of this L, why do we keep getting them? What are we doing wrong? What is it that we need to alter or change so that we can come out of that? And
it's easy just to when you keep winning, it's easy just to flow and just stay in a straight line with no improvement because you can.
Yeah, I think perspective again kind of always does, because there are certain things that are objective truths, but the reality is that almost 99.9% of what we go through every day, it's all subjective stuff. And so the way you view stuff is what really matters. And there's the reality that we have like our internal world that we do have complete faculty over. I really do believe that it's like, that's the most important thing to really get a firm grip of, because that's the thing you can control. And then there's the external environment, things that you can't control. And so sometimes you can be beating yourself with a stick because things aren't going well, but maybe it's not in your control. Or sometimes you're not beating yourself with a stick and actually you kind of should be, because like it's all in your control and you're not doing anything about it. I really like the sort of philosophy that it's never your fault, but it's always your responsibility. You don't have to necessarily blame people for the circumstances. Obviously people, come up through really tough, troublesome times. I've felt at times like I was hard done by, and I know that's not true when I'm to compare myself, but in my subjective experience, that's sometimes what it's felt like. But what really matters is understanding that there's a certain amount of things that I can control, and that's where I really have to hone my focus, and I have to just make sure that I'm aware of what's happening in the external so that I can at least do my best to foresee, troublesome sort of challenges arising.
Don't you think if you grab control of the internal and you grab it in a positive way and you're actively doing all of the things to be the best version of yourself in the things that you can control, that the external then has a funny way of coming back?
Yeah, fortune favours the brave.
Yeah.
Or like the harder I work, the luckier I get. They're both very true. It's like I think it's a co-creative process. Like you can either be people call it the victim mentality. I know there was a period of time when I definitely inhabited that. We all know, individuals who have at least ourselves or individuals around us when it very much seems like they're sort of inhabiting that like victim mindset or the archetype of the victim, where it's just no matter what happens, even if they're maybe not giving themselves the best chance they could, it's like, oh, this has happened to me, that has happened to me. I know that I've done that, like, and I've been there, and like it ain't fun, and it feels like there's no way out, because it feels like everywhere you turn it's just another like rock being thrown at you or whatever it is. And I think it takes a certain amount of dropping another name, Tony Robbins, he's a big one.
I like Tony Robbins.
Yeah, he talks about like pain, pleasure, balance. And so it's only when you're in enough pain that actually the difficulty of the thing that you want becomes like easier than the pain that you're enduring. So it's like, if you really want to get fit, but you're like, oh, the effort to get fit, like I've got to eat healthy, I should probably go to bed on time, you know, I should probably stop just doing all this kind of crap, all this drinking, whatever it may be. That suffering that you're kind of putting yourself through by not being fit and healthy has to actually be greater than what you perceive the pain of like getting fit and healthy being. Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to say it because that was your thing.
Yeah, it is. But if you,
choose your hard, man.
But if you think that, like, you know, getting fit and healthy is harder than the hard that you're currently in, then you're like, because we all want comfort ultimately. You know, that's kind of what like our nervous system is wired for. We want like comfort and safety. And I think another thing that I've sort of thought about quite a bit over the last few months is, you know, the way we have seasons in nature is the way that really, well, it's an old Hermetic saying that's as above, so below. So you kind of see things happening outside as you also see them happening inside. And so when it's like winning season and losing season, you know, to me, yeah, you have the actual spring, summer, you know, winter and autumn. Didn't say those in the right order. But like you have those externally, but you also see them happening internally. So to me, you know, you go through a period of winter where it's like, it's quiet, it's cold, you're kind of introspective, you're trying to figure out what's going on. You know, in winter, most of the plants die, the leaves fall off. It's almost like a shedding. Sometimes we need that. Like I went through that, a bit of almost like a personal winter. And then you come into the spring, and that's the point when all of a sudden it's like new seeds have been sown, new plants start to grow, they need to be watered, they need to be nourished. And then all of a sudden you find yourself in summer, everything starts coming into full bloom. You're getting, you know, these things that you were hoping to come true start to come true. And then you get into the autumn and it's time for harvest. You actually, you know, reap the reward. And just like the seasons do externally repeat on a cyclical nature, so do they internally. So you get that reward, and then it's like, what's next? You have to go through another shedding. You have to find new ideas. You have to find new processes. So
I think that's why I enjoy racing so much. Like we're running, and like I think it's why like I'll like continue to these type of things. Just as I get older. Well, obviously the health benefits and everything as well, but I get so much enjoyment out of it. Like the running, the marathon or the half or whatever isn't the fun part. The fun part is like laying the bricks.
Yeah. I mean, I have no doubt that you'll keep it up for a while, but you may find that all of a sudden at some point you go through a winter and the sort of identity or the goal that you have around running may change. Now, for some people, it never does. Like, you know, I certainly think some of the things I now think, oh, like I'll kind of hold on to those forever. But I think the last thing I actually want is to go through my life and not change my beliefs.
No, 100%. To be fair, when I said racing, like I looked at the grand scheme of things, like all
the competition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like whether that's whatever it is, triathlon, cycling. I don't know. I'll find some new challenges. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I want to put it back to the business.
Okay.
Because we went like we started and then we just went.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I have a tendency to do that. Yeah.
Okay. It's okay. We're here for it. But yeah, bro. What were the things that you had to implement into yourself? Because going from being told what to do, being given tasks, make sure you get this done. These are your work hours. These are the tasks for the week. Blah blah blah. Being told them to then all of a sudden having to figure them out yourself and then still do them.
Yeah.
Like, what was that process like for you?
Yeah. So I think I managed to say one thing, which was discipline. So discipline, one. I think 2 would definitely be like structure, which isn't too dissimilar to discipline because you require discipline to stick to the structure.
You mean structure of a business though, right?
Yeah, like structure of a business, but also structure of your day, you know, so all of a sudden I think it really starts to matter as things evolve that it's not, oh, okay, like it needs to be done, you know, by the end of the day, therefore I can wake up a bit late and go a bit slow. Like kind of no matter what's happening is staying a bit ahead of the curve. So having a structure and sticking to it so that actually you can find yourself, if anything, ahead. And I know that for a long time, I was always the person that like either copied my mate's homework in class 2 minutes before it was handed in or handed in my like uni assignment literally at midnight after pulling an all-nighter. Realizing that actually having a plan and sticking to it, having that structure and no doubt sometimes curveballs will come in, but that is so fundamental. And so now I've found a much better way of sort of structuring my week so that one, I get everything I need to get done in regards to my business, while also not neglecting myself, physically, mentally, emotionally. So yeah, structure really matters. And then I think it's also learning to delegate. That's a big one. I mean, it's not something you can do for a while because, for the first at least year, 18 months, okay, I did a few small delegation tasks. That was mainly from people who were willing to help me through the kindness of their heart. I should definitely give my mate Cookie a shout out, who helped build our first website. And he gave me also, I would say, a lot of, confidence to kind of, he's like, go for it, why not? And I really appreciate his...
They're the best type of people, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great guy. And yeah, I think that allowing yourself to delegate actually allows you to excel at the things that really is probably why you started this journey in the first place. I know that, or at least I like to think I'm good at coming up with ideas. I'm good at kind of like transmitting the message and helping to sort of design and build a product and try and build a brand and stand for something that I really believe in. But if there are certain things that I'm not excelling in and I have the capacity to outsource them rather than holding on to them because you're kind of scared to let them go, actually you're only holding yourself back, because then your kind of capacity just gets wasted on these, often the things that you're not that good at, the things that take you the longest. And so, yeah, you do need to do them for a while just so that you can understand what it even is when you're looking to delegate. But once you've got that, then I think offloading some of that, that workmanship that necessarily is not best suited to me was really valuable for helping the business grow.
I think it's really important what you just said about having to understand, because it applies to a lot of businesses and not just your own. We can apply it to our own, where let's just use an editor as an example. If we don't know how to edit, we don't know how we want the editor to edit. So how can I delegate something to somebody that I can't give him instructions on how to complete the task?
Absolutely.
And also, if shit hits the fan, that external that you can't control, who's going to step in? Who's going to step in and save the day? Because if you can't do it, you're going to then have to undelegate to then try and redelegate something. And this is all time, and time is money, especially in business.
Yeah.
So, and I think as well, it's like a financial thing as well, right? Because you can't really delegate if you've just started and you've got no money.
Yeah, exactly. So you do have to do the work at some point. Exactly. You've got to do the hard yards. But once you've built up, some sort of momentum on your side, I generally kind of always view things as having a sort of like spiraling up or a spiraling down trajectory. I don't ever really think that something's stagnant. If you think that something in your life is stagnating, like you're like, oh, like the gym stagnated, it's like, well, then your physical health is actually probably spiraling downwards as you speak, because it's not staying still. The longer you're out of exercise, like the less conditioned you're becoming. Whereas if you're actively training, just as a good example, your physical fitness is spiraling upwards. And I think that you can see that in everything. I always think that there is momentum. Again, like the pendulum swings, doesn't just sit in the middle. And so, I think it's important to realize kind of when you've got that momentum on your side, and you can sort of move with it, find someone who's good that, you can delegate to, who you can trust. But of course, like you said as well, if shit hits the fan, you need to be able to then take back a hold of the reins, or you at least need to be able to know like how to delegate to someone else, because if it's just kind of a quick get it out and you want nothing to do with it, it's going to be really difficult if it does come swinging back to you.
Yeah. One thing I want to touch on the topic of delegate is you manufacture your own products, right?
Yeah.
Why?
Don't think I'd trust anyone else to do it. So, we're very particular,
Control
like with
king.
our with our,
Control
like with our
king.
with
Not
like
freak.
with our like herbal capsules and stuff, we mentioned about it before, like you go and get a load of supplements online and there's a good amount that there's a lot of sort of additives, various sort of fillers and flow agents is what they're called, in order to basically make the manufacturing process easier. But these are things that add a burden to your liver, and you're not taking a supplement to take a load of like magnesium stearate or silicon dioxide or titanium dioxide or whatever else they chuck in there. And also, ultimately the product that I'm creating is the thing that we greatly believe in. And so why would it's also, I think it is also no doubt that like there's a risk. You hear about all these like, if you're outsourcing something, I mean, one, I think what we're doing isn't that easy to outsource in any case, but I've heard about it multiple times with people on platforms like Amazon. Like there was a guy, I think down in South Wales, who was selling sort of like luxury leather motorcycle jackets and various bits and pieces. And I'm pretty sure he had a manufacturer. I can't exactly remember where it was located, but, you know, they made him a prime seller. He was doing very well. Then, of course, Amazon saw the numbers and were like, wow, this guy's selling millions of pounds of motorcycle jackets. They know where his manufacturer is. They contact his manufacturer. They sign an agreement with the manufacturer. They push him out. He's now no longer got a business. So, you know, you need to have some USP. And, like, you know, for me, it's my dedication to understanding kind of like herbs and sort of what you would really call like natural medicine to a degree. And, you know, we're forever kind of thinking about expanding and developing new products. And I'm constantly having conversations, you know, with really interesting people about different ways that we can approach, you know, the challenges that our customers face. You know, we sort of have a set of fundamental pillars that are, whether it's general well-being, immunity, gut health, skin health, energy, and sort of weight management. We know that, you know, and also stress. These are all the things that everybody's, you know, struggling with, and I want to provide genuinely authentic, natural products that can help people with those issues. And I don't deny that, you know, lifestyle really matters, but good quality products also make a really big difference, and they have for me, and they have for many people. So yeah.
Where do you accumulate this knowledge? Because this business started from, and you're smiling at me now.
It's funny because I get this question quite a lot.
This business started from you being like, oh, let me try this Irish Seamoss stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel great.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to sell loads of this to everybody.
Yeah.
The in-between bit is where I'm trying to dot it up. Like,
it's not common knowledge to know how to turn Seamoss into a gel.
And then like create your own capsules and then actually market them and sell them to people all around the country and out of the UK yet or not?
No, not out of the UK yet. No. Yeah.
Yet is the big part.
I'm sure we could get you there, man.
Yeah. On that in-between bit, like, what are you actively doing to be like, right, okay, I'm not only going to just do this, but I want to be the best at it?
Yeah.
Where do you find all the knowledge? Just the process. Like, I wouldn't even know how to create a product and what measurements need to go into one capsule and how much of this and how was it all trial and error? Was it like,
no doubt to start with, there's a hell of a lot of trial and error. I mean, for the first like 6 months, I didn't sell any products. I was just making them for myself, trying my best to give them to family members. I mean, I look back at some of the old photos on my phone and I'm like, what the hell was I thinking?
Is there any bad stuff that you were like, oh, fucking hell, I can't sell that?
Yeah. We made one that had like loads of like spirulina and like wheatgrass. It was just vile. You know what I mean? Like, it may have had some, I'm sure it had some, you know, good nutritional benefits. It's not a product that we sell, but yeah, it was almost unstomachable, unpalatable. It was not a pleasant experience. No. A gel that we made. It was horrendous.
You put it in your mouth and be like, oh, God,
even smelling it was quite unpleasant, you know. Yeah. Whereas now everyone tells us that, you know, like most people really enjoy it. So yeah, lots of trial and error, and then, you know, it's just, again, it's dedication. I think ever since I was a young kid, you know, I had a lot of what people would call fads, but they weren't ever really fads because they would always last for like a couple of years. Like, I got obsessed with Rubik's Cubes. So first I learned just how to solve one. And then I remember, you know, other lads in the year started learning how to solve them because there's a relatively simple way to learn how to solve them where you only need to know about 7 to like 9 different algorithms. So the algorithms are basically based on the orientation of the cube, a certain configuration like pattern that allows you to solve it. However, once everyone had done that, I was then like, okay, well, you know, I'm dedicated. I've got to figure out how to do it quicker. And so I learned a method that required me to learn about 100 algorithms instead. And bearing in mind, some of these algorithms are like 17 moves long. So you're talking about like having 100 different algorithms in your head based on where the different pieces are. And so I literally spent weeks in my bedroom in you know, with printout sheets of like, it will say like L, R, R prime, F, which basically means the different face, left, right, front, back algorithms, so that I could learn to solve a Rubik's Cube. Eventually it was in like just under 30 seconds. I could do it in about 25 seconds. I can't do that way anymore. I can just now still do the basic method. I mean, and there's real crazy guys now who can literally do it in 5-6 seconds flat. It's just wild. But I've always had that sort of attention to the things that I really wanted to do. It was the same when I got obsessed with like magic card tricks. I just became totally obsessed with that for like 2 years and was learning absolutely everything I could. And although it's less narrow in scope now, my interests, because I think I have become a little bit more rounded / that right side of my brain is a little bit more engaged in being a little bit more holistic. I found a direction that, you know, I stand for. I believe that people can, you know, sort of take back responsibility for their own health, their own well-being. I think that people can achieve a lot more than they believe. I think that they can feel a lot better than they believe. And, you know, kind of since setting that direction, I haven't looked back. And so anything that I've sort of viewed as being within scope of that, I've just not stopped really. I keep wanting more. I always thought when I was doing my accounting exams, it was like, if I get through these exams, and I did like 11 out of the 14, so I got pretty close to the end and was like, nah, screw this. And I thought, I am never gonna like learn another thing again because I won't have to. And I was so fed up with education. But actually, my favorite thing now probably is learning new things, but it's self-directed learning rather than imposed learning of make sure you memorize this. Whereas now I'm like, I want to memorize this just because I'm the one who decided to do it rather than someone outside telling me this is what you have to do. So I think it's just, a commitment to, what's the Japanese manufacturing principle? They call it Kaizen, which is constant and never-ending improvement.
1% every day.
Yeah, and you know, I think that's what it takes. There's no doubt I also have a pretty good aptitude towards remembering facts and quotes and stuff like that, which helps. But
it's a very cool thing to be able to do, by the way.
I appreciate that you think it's cool.
No, yeah,
I'm not sure everyone does. But yeah, like that's what it is. It's just commitment to, you know, like never stopping, like kind of never slowing down. And I think that's why you see a lot of people who are kind of, you know, fed up because they don't want to. Most people kind of, if they're in a career that they don't like, as far as they're concerned, they want to squeeze more in terms of like, I want, you know, a better paycheck, I want a better salary, but do I want to like give more time in the office or kind of like learn something in my own time? You know, people who may work in audit, I can't imagine many of them then want to go and listen to like accounting podcasts in the evening. Whereas some people do, and those are the people who I think should really be in accounting, you know, because for some people it is fascinating. And for me, I've found a field where it's like, at the end of the day, I want to go and learn something new about the thing that I've been doing all day, rather than like, I want to kind of remove myself from it. I'm engrossed in sort of what I'm doing. And yeah, I truly love it. I really do.
So where's the finish line? You touched on never stopping. Like you've got to have some kind of end goal in mind, right? What does that look like?
I think I'm committed to providing products and services that help people with their essentially health and well-being. And you know, well-being is sort of World Health Organization actually came up with a reasonable point on this one. I think they sort of classify it as not just like the absence of, you know, sort of like disease or infirmity, but actually a, you know, thriving emotionally, socially, psychologically, and spiritually, in sort of all aspects of your health. I'm just fundamentally committed to, providing products that I really believe in that can help people with those areas of their life, and also the sort of the new era of, well, not new era because it will happen alongside, but I'm also currently in the development of a new business called Transform My Wellbeing. So we're sticking with the TMW theme from the Moss Way, which is going to be about essentially building a community of individuals and running services where we can help individuals within those community through a community of coaches that I've sort of met throughout the last few years on helping them with, you know, things from, again, stress management to weight loss to nutrition to, you know, mindfulness, and the sort of many factors of health and wellness. And yeah, I think between those and the evolutions of what come from these product and service-based businesses that are, you know, all guided towards helping people, I think that's going to keep me busy.
What about the business side?
What goals? I don't have numbers. I don't have numbers. I think, you know, like obviously there's always like kind of short-term metrics where you're like, oh, it'd be good to get to this point, but really those numbers to me only kind of stand for, that shows that the number of people who I've genuinely tried to serve has increased. And so I hope that actually, you know, in the past there definitely was a thing of like, oh, I want to be a millionaire. But to be honest, I haven't felt like that for a long time. Like, yeah, okay, I do want financial sort of abundance and success so that I can create a life, you know, for my loved ones and my family, you know, my partner that I want. But actually my sort of fulfillment and my what I almost feel is a duty to do that is much more important. And I do really believe that, you know, all the really successful guys that we see, they weren't chasing like big numbers. I think it might become a bit of fun once they're at the top, but actually they really had a passion and a desire to achieve something, and the money is just like a kind of, it's a byproduct. I'm not chasing it as a primary, you know, and if I do happen to make a lot of money through the businesses that I create, then I hope that really I will just use that in order to develop more things that I genuinely think can help serve other individuals. Because, you know, I've been on those journeys. I've been lost. I've found things really tough at times, you know. I've wanted to quit. I've not wanted to be here. And like, so if I can give back to people who are in any way on their journey, as we all are, then I would, I would find it hard not to say yes.
That's beautiful, bro.
That's beautiful. I just need to quickly pop to the toilet, guys.
No, that's all right.
Give me 1 second.
I actually
let me ask you some questions then.
Oh God, what now? H has gone as well. Shit.
Tell me then about, like, you know, your last 18 months. Like, you know, I said, you know, discipline, structure, and kind of like outsourcing. How have you found it? What do you say are the kind of biggest couple things that?
To be quite honest with you, bro, I feel like we were just ticking along on a mission that we didn't. There was no real structure. There was no real plan. It was always chasing the work, get the work done, chase some more work, get that done, and there was no real structure and plan to how were we actually going to build a machine that is ticking without us being in it. Because we met a really, really intelligent dude when we took our business trip to Dubai at the back end of last year. And he said, you focus 90% of your time on getting the work done and 10% on scaling your business. And it should kind of be flipped. And we were like, what do you mean? And he said, well, similar to earlier when you were talking about delegating, there's a lot of roles that we can delegate to other people at a cost, of course, but the time that we then free up allows us to then do the things which we got into this business for. Yeah. To scale, to actually run a business, to create a system, to manage team members. Do you know what I mean? And to actually focus in and lock in on the things that were important to go to the next level. Yeah. So throughout this last kind of 18 months, I feel like it's only in the last 3 where we've actually become business owners. Yeah. You started to systemize. Yeah. I think systemize is a massive thing. It's very similar to delegate, but obviously in a structured sense. And like a real business almost becomes a bit like a living organism in a way. Do you know what I mean? It's got to be able to breathe and fend on itself. Yeah. And it becomes really difficult if as soon as you, remove yourself from that, there's always different components. And I'm sure what that guy said is very true.
but again, it takes a sort of certain amount of work to build up that like kind of critical mass to the point when you then can break out.
Yeah, for sure.
I think doing the work yourself at the start is quite important.
Yeah,
very important.
It's character building.
It is, and as well, I think you respect the craft as well.
Mm-hmm.
You build a sense of respect for the people that you then go on to delegate these tasks to, because you once had to do them.
Yeah.
So you understand them. And you can put yourself in somebody's shoes. Like, okay, well, when I was overwhelmed by this amount of projects, this is what I did. And that respect factor also, it's like leading by example, isn't it?
Yeah.
You lead from the front.
Yeah, don't just talk the talk.
Yeah. So, like, how can I expect somebody to create this masterpiece or to generate this amount of clips in a day if I can't do it, or if I don't do it, or I won't do it? You very quickly lose the respect of the people that, in my opinion, if the people that are working below you in your pyramid structure don't respect the top, then why are they even there? Why are they going to do and turn up and do their work at the best of their ability if they don't respect the guys at the top and they're not leading by example? So that year and a half is very important for me in that sense.
Yeah. Paul Check's got a nice saying, which is like, wake up, grow up, and show up.
Yeah.
I mean, like, realize what it is, wake up, grow up, like, kind of get things in a line and get ready to do it, and then just show up and do the work. What about in terms of, like, what is, similar to kind of what you asked me, what is like what is the grand vision for you guys? Like, is there a unifying, value or philosophy that sort of underlines what you're building?
I think you go and I'll go.
Well, for me, when we first started the business, obviously, like, the first thing was money, to be honest with you. But now,
it's how it always starts for most people in this left brain world. That number.
For me, it's now switched to, like, first of all, I've got a massive passion for just creating content. Anyways, like, I love creating content, but now it's more so freedom. But as, like, I start to get further and further along the journey, although I don't think that the agency will go. And obviously I love the podcast as well. The podcast is just to grow, and, like, I just love sitting down and having interesting conversations like today. But, like, the agency will, like, allow us to do all of these other great, amazing things that we want to do as well, growing up. Which, to be fair, that ties into freedom, doesn't it? That ties into the freedom. But yeah, it's a one-word answer for me. It is freedom.
Yeah.
To do anything. So, like we spoke about the supplement company, like, one day, like, that was something that a few weeks ago I was like, oh, this would be so cool to do one day, and, like, making phone calls, like, doing research. Like, that would be sick. Like, and that's something that would tie into my life. Again, the agency still ties into my life through creating content. Like we said before the episode started, like, we're going to get back on that as well, like, from a personal standpoint. So
time freedom, location freedom, financial freedom. Isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, in terms of, like, an actual goal, like an end goal for what we do, for me on a personal level, I get massive fulfillment for giving back. And I think, first of all, I will be giving back to me for all the work that I've put in. I think it's only right. I think it's only right.
Yeah, no.
Which will be very quickly followed by my loved ones.
Yeah.
For support and just raising me to be the person that I am. I think I owe them a lot, because there's a lot of people that I know that aren't very good people and don't think and tick the way that we think and tick.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of that is due to our upbringing.
Yeah.
The morals that were instilled into us as children. So that, and then making an impact, whether that be on a business owner that really needs help, that we can actually come in and be like, we took them from here to there. That's massively fulfilling. But then also on a financial standpoint, I would like to create such a wealth so that I can give all of the people around me in the generations to come as well the best possible life to do what they do and is, like, the most fulfilling thing for them. But also give people that are a lot less fortunate than me, than us, a better opportunity as well. we did one thing in Dubai which stuck with me, and it actually got a really, really good reaction on social media. It was really, really small, but possibly changed this man's life forever. I was in a car, and my taxi driver was like, just, I could just tell his whole energy and aura was off. And I asked him if it was okay, and I thought it was because we were in traffic and he was stressed out that he wasn't going to be able to get any other jobs done. He then went on to tell me that his brother died, and he couldn't afford to go back to his country to send him off. Me, H, and my girlfriend all together paid for him to go and some. And a grown man cried on my shoulder. And the feeling that that gave me, I can't even put into words. Just speaking about it puts a smile on my face. I called my mom and said, I did something amazing. Like, can I call you? Can I? And I was just so like proud of myself that I could impact somebody's life with such an insignificant amount of money in my life, changed his. And to do that on a larger scale would probably be like my idea of an end goal. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty deep, but
no, it's beautiful. I think it's what most people want ultimately, isn't it? You know, to help, you know, ourselves and also the others around us, and to have an impact. I mean, the agency, like, you know, the pod, it's all about creating impact, isn't it? Yeah. To allow people to sort of make a change, whether it's directly through you or actually through, you know, something that you sort of just inspire or show the way. And, you know, then further down the line to be able to just kind of multiply that effect out. I think that's what most people truly deep down want. You know, as they say, there's a lot more that unites us than divides us. You just got to realise that that's the truth.
I also quickly as well, I do want to say, because I don't want to feel like I'm kind of not being true to myself, I also want to make a shitload of money. I'd be lying to you if I didn't say that. I do actually want to have really nice watches, a really nice suit,
a really nice house. Though, bro.
Yeah, but like, I didn't really say it. Yeah. I like the idea of, I did that. Yeah. We did that. Yeah. Like, that's, yeah. Yeah. So I just wanted to say that. No, it's fine, there's a lot of really nice things that I would love to do for other people, but I'd be lying to you if I wasn't also in this for selfish reasons.
It's both sides of the coin. There's an old like mystical branch of Christianity called Rosicrucianism, where they talk about I think they call it Trinitarian thinking, and they say that it is literally like depicted like the cross, like the Christian cross.
Bring that down to me to your mouth, please. Just this bit here. Oh yeah, that's good. That'll work.
Yeah. It's like the Christian cross, and they say like on the one side you have almost like the material aspect, which they have as like a deity, and it's called Ahriman from old Zoroastrian religion. And on the other side they have Lucifer, which is like the sort of spiritual being. So you have like the material plane and almost the spiritual plane, and their whole kind of way of existing was to be able to, the whole Trinitarian thinking is that's two. In the center is the kind of centering principle of you have to be able to, you know, live in both worlds. Like, we're in a spirit, as far as I'm concerned, a spiritual and material world at the same time. And so, like, you know what, to want to like make a lot of money and have nice watches and nice cars, I think that's absolutely fine, as long as it is balanced with also a sort of another desire to want to help and, you know, be able to provide people with, you know, the things that they need and to inspire. I think where it gets difficult is when you either only want one or only want the other. I think they can both. I think being too spiritual can be problematic and too material can be problematic. I think it's just clear that in the world we're in now, it's often more often more material than not, but like...
Well, to leave the impact that I one day will leave, I'm going to need a significant amount of money.
Yeah. So you might as well get some nice watches on the way.
Why not? Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean?
Look, I wouldn't mind a nice watch. You know?
Man. Yeah. Should we round off? I was going to say, the camera's about to go out in a minute anyway, so...
Yeah, let's not do what we did last time.
But yeah, bro, thank you so much for coming around, man. We've sat down and spoken now, I think, as a collective for probably 6 hours, if we had anything the rest. For the last, 4 days, maybe 5 days. But I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I've thoroughly enjoyed understanding you, your story, how you tick, understanding your business, and just being able to say that you're one of my friends now.
I appreciate it. I feel the same.
Yeah,
both of you. Yeah,
I feel the same with both of you as well.
So I'm massively grateful for that.
You should hope so that I feel the same.
It all finishes in a love story.
Yeah, man. But yeah, thank you for coming down and taking the time, bro. We know you're busy and you've got a lot of stuff to be doing, and you came not once but twice. Showed up
an
for
absolute
us.
general.
You know what? And I'll do it again.
Yeah, man. We'll run
man.
it back. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that we haven't even tapped into on both ends. So yeah, man, for sure we'll run it back.
Well, I appreciate it as well. Thank you. Good questions, good conversation. That's always something that I appreciate. And yeah, I hope everyone's enjoyed listening. And you know what? Hopefully, if anyone's just gained a small little bit of knowledge that can help them on their own journey, then it's all worth it.
And then go and buy some Seamoss, man.
Yeah, the Moss way. The Moss way.
We'll have the link in the description, so that if anybody's interested, they can go and.
I'll set you guys up a little discount code.
Yeah,
Get
amazing.
your listeners to save a bit of money.
Could be our first sponsor for the show.
First podcast sponsor. We'll have to think about that.
But yeah, everybody, as per usual, man. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, turn that bell notification on so you get notified every time we release a podcast. And we'll see you all next week.
Love. We'll catch you later, man.